Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. Hello, everybody. This is the HMIS user meeting for August 2019. In the chat box, please enter your agency name so we know which agencies are participating in the call. And if there's any questions at any point, feel free to type them in the chat box, or you can also unmute yourself and ask your question if you prefer. And we are going to go ahead and get started. So we have a quick agenda today, a quick update on the homeless prevention project performance reports that hopefully most of you have received, an update on the COC dashboard, standardized services, the data standards training that's coming up, a case notes template, and our latest Looker webinar. So first up is Casey. Casey?
Erin?
Yeah.
Great. Can I share my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so yesterday we sent out the final homeless prevention project performance report. The initial performance data was pulled for homeless prevention projects in March. That data was not published because it was just draft data. So now we have published the final report, and we will be discussing it at the Data and Performance Management Committee meeting tomorrow from 1 to 3 at the Village. So here on the slide, I have the list of measures that are included. This link goes to our project performance report page on our website. You can also access this page by just going to our website, hovering over the reports menu and clicking on project performance reports. The homeless prevention project performance report is this first link, and it will take you to the Tableau dashboard, which contains all of the measures. So the next time we look at homeless prevention data will be in March 2020 and again next August. And I don't see any questions. So we'll move on to the COC dashboard. So the COC dashboard has been a long time coming, and it is finally published and it's ready to be updated already. So you can also access the COC dashboard by going to our website, hovering over reports, and clicking on Orange County COC dashboard down here. It'll take you to this Tableau page. So we start off with a welcome tab that kind of tells you a little bit about all of the other tabs here. We have a glossary of, oh, it'll do that sometimes. We have a glossary of commonly used terms throughout the dashboard that people who are not as familiar with homeless services as we are might need. Then we move on to the client demographics tab. So at the top, it'll always have the reporting period, which will be the month prior to when it's published. So we're in the process of updating it now with July's data. And this client demographics tab only shows data about clients who were active in emergency shelter, street outreach, or transitional housing projects as of the last day of the reporting period. So this is only including information on clients who were in literally homeless situations and being served in a project as of the last day of the month that we're looking at. And this all represents a unique count of clients. Clients are only counted in this data once. So you can hover over each piece of data to see a little bit more about what you're looking at. And at the bottom, we have some bed inventory information for emergency shelter and transitional housing, and this will also be updated monthly. The next tab is households served over time. This tab will be updated quarterly, so the next update will be in October. And this tab shows us a unique count of households served. So the first line is households served that were active in an emergency shelter, street outreach, or transitional project during the quarter. The dark blue line is those who were new enrollments, and the orange line are enrollments that led to a permanent housing destination during the quarter. So the purpose of this chart is to show the gap between households that are experiencing homelessness and those that are receiving permanent housing. These first two are just based on household type, and then we have some subcategories underneath that. So everyone who is represented in these charts is also represented in these charts, depending on their household type. The Family CES tab will also be updated monthly like the quarterly like the Household Served Over Time tab. And we have just a couple measures on this tab that the community thought were important to looking at the Family CES system. All of this data comes from HMIS, so this is why we only have data about the Family CES system and not the individual system yet. The COC Board Report tab will be updated monthly like the Client Demographics tab, and this is the same information that we were providing as a PDF on paper at the COC Board Reports. It's just part of the dashboard now rather than its own document. So it's the same measures and the same methodology used to look at each of these performance measures broken down by project type. You can hover over the scores to find out more information about each measure. And then finally, we have the System Performance Report tab, which will be updated yearly after we submit the System Performance Report to HUD. And you can look at each measure by clicking on these radio buttons to change the graphs. Okay, I think that about covers it. Are there any questions on the COC dashboard? Doesn't look like it.
Just a quick note also on the dashboard. On the COC board report tab, if you are not sure what's being calculated in a measure, you can hover over the title to get, or the icon to get a description of what that measure is and what's being included. And I'm not seeing any questions. Okay. Next up is standardized services with Myra. Let me find you. Myra?
Yes, can you hear me?
Did you want to share your screen, or do you want me to share mine?
I can share mine.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. We are currently in the process of standardizing services and how they're being set up in HMIS. So
Myra?
what that means, yes?
I don't see your screen.
Oh, shoot. Let's see. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So good morning, everyone. As I was saying.
But I think you're on the wrong slide.
Oh, no. There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
Better now? Okay, awesome. So as I was saying, we are currently standardizing how we're setting up projects. And what we did is basically put together a template that what you're seeing right here of various project types with suggested services and service items. We pulled a look from all of the project types in HMIS and went through them to select the most popular services and service items that fell under each project type. So these are mere suggestions as to what could be under a project type and the service items under a service. So in hopes that an agency, if they're setting up a new project or a new service, they can kind of get a little bit more guidance as to what that might look like for them. But it is going to be ultimately up to the agency to decide what they want to include, but just kind of gives them a starting point. But as you can take a moment to look at the services that we currently have right now. And we are looking for some feedback as well. So if you want to drop a comment in the chat to kind of give us some suggestions or some concerns, that'd be very appreciated.
What would be helpful to know is if there's anything on here that your projects absolutely do not do for whatever the project type is listed, or if there are things that your agency is doing that you believe other agencies are doing also and you don't see it on this list. That would help us to kind of, we're trying to get a comprehensive, but also a comprehensive list, but also a list that kind of applies to most projects and agencies. So trying to keep that in mind as you're looking over the list. Okay, we got one comment for OCHA PSH. We only provide the rental assistance piece and do not provide any case management. Okay, we can make a note of that.
Okay. Any other suggestions?
And if you need more time too, feel free to look this over a little bit further and you can enter a ticket with the help desk. And we'll also be talking about this a little bit more at the data meeting tomorrow. So if you want to bring feedback to that meeting, you can do that also.
Okay. So for now, I'll just go ahead and move on to the next slide. I know everyone has been super excited to discuss the upcoming changes to the HMIS data standards, and I am happy to announce that the supplemental trainings for the 2020 data standards will be up by September for everyone to take. The supplemental trainings will be for RIE, SSVS, PAST, VASH, and a general one as well, and everyone, again, will have to complete that. So for the most part, nothing major is being changed, just additional responses, and certain data elements are going to be required for some projects. But the biggest change is that the data element 3.917, prior living situation, which is going to be a combination of certain data elements, but the point is that there will no longer be an interim housing option as of October 1st, 2020. So agencies will have to go in and edit their previous responses, and we will follow up with a look of clients that have that response listed as of right now, but additionally, we are encouraging agencies to no longer use that response, so that way their data cleanup will be minimal. Any questions?
Myra, can you go into the training site really quick and show them where that field is so they can see it?
Training site, sure. Give me a second. So I don't know as of right now, because that one's going to be a combination of two data elements to come. So I'm not too sure where it would be as of right now.
I'm just talking about the, because we're asking them to no longer choose the interim housing option.
Mm-hmm.
So I just meant where that is.
It would be, I believe, right here. So when in an enrollment, when they're asking you the living situation, the type of residence, it's usually right. It is right there in interim housing. So yeah, don't pick that one anymore.
So, and as Myra said, the reason we recommend that you don't use this right now is because come October 1st, if the client is still active in the project in HMIS, you're going to have to change it to something else. But we will be sending that list to you so you can make those corrections in HMIS. And we can actually remove this option right now because it is still part of the current data standards. So it's just something to keep in mind with your data entry process for the next couple months.
And that is it for me.
There's a question. Will all users have to redo HMIS trainings for the 2020 data standards?
So it's going to be a supplemental training for like the general population, and we are going to update the previous training so it's included. Like a new user won't have to take the supplemental ones; they'll be included. But yes, if any of your projects are the RAI, SS, VF, Path, Bash, or just the general one, you'll have to take the supplemental one.
We're expecting the training won't be more than an hour, maybe even less than that. Yeah, but just to make sure all the users know the new definitions.
Yeah, it's just like one or two things that are changing. They're not lengthy at all.
All right. I'm not seeing any more questions.
Okay, so I'm gonna close my screen now.
Adriana?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, do you need to share your screen?
No, you can share yours. Okay, good morning, everybody. I would like to talk about case notes. So we would like to give you some recommendations on how to write case notes in HMIS. And of course, you guys have the autonomy to write the notes in the best way that fits the necessities of your projects and the policies and procedures. But we still want to share some things that we think are really important to consider when writing case notes. So the first recommendation we have for you is use factual vocabulary. And what does that exactly mean? This means concentrate in what happened during the session with the client. So exactly what was discussed and what happened, as opposed to write your own interpretations on what happened during the session. And the second recommendation is to avoid using negative adjectives to describe the client or the client's behavior. So let me give you an example. If I write, the stubborn attitude of the client shows lack of motivation, well, that's not a very tactful way to write a case note, because if I say the client shows lack of motivation, that is basically an interpretation and my own interpretation of the client's attitude, and we want to avoid that. Also, if I say the stubborn attitude, I'm using a negative adjective to describe the client's behavior, so that is also something we want to avoid. So if I want to say something like that, I could rewrite that sentence in a way that is better and it really is more objective and it doesn't have to do with my own opinion on what happened during the session. So for example, I could say, I met with the client to discuss their feelings regarding their motivations. So as you can see, that is more factual, is more objective, and the whole idea here is to avoid any predispositions. For example, if we have other case managers in our agency that work with that same client and they happen to come across that note, well, if I write a note like that, if I read a note like that, I would have a predisposition against the client, or I might have an initial bias against the client. So the whole idea is that all the case managers, the new case managers that work with clients, don't have any bad connotations before working with the client. So we want the case notes to be as objective as possible. And those are basically our more important recommendations. Any questions so far?
And just to provide some context around this recommendation, so at the last Data and Performance Management Committee meeting, we talked about being able to share case notes across different agencies. And one of the biggest concerns that came up was that some of the case notes could be a negative bias against the client if some of the case manager's opinions and feelings were included in the case note. And we just kind of want to keep in mind that just because we may not have a good relationship with the client or things aren't going well, it doesn't mean that they wouldn't do well with another agency or another project or whatever. And we just kind of want to put the client first and keep in mind that just trying to keep it as factual as possible in case another case manager does come across that note. And a decision wasn't made yet regarding sharing case notes in the future. There will be more conversation around that moving forward, but just to kind of get started on the right foot, we want to make sure the case notes are kind of as factual as possible. Adriana, did you see any questions?
No, I don't see. No, I don't see any questions in that regard.
All right. Okay. Elizabeth?
Yes. Would you be able to click on the links when I speak about them, or would you like me to share my screen? Okay. Hi, everyone. So today we're announcing that the full Looker training series is now complete with the publication of the Advanced Looker webinar. So that was the last webinar that we were waiting to publish, and it is now published. The Advanced Looker webinar covers table calculations, custom dimensions and measures, which are types of custom fields that you can create in Looker, and also choosing the best visualization for your look. So just as a reminder, Looker is the software that you can use within Clarity to create custom reports or extract data of the HMIS data that you input in Clarity. And you can access the full 5-video series on our HMIS YouTube channel. So if you could click on that link, Erin. So this is a link directly to the Looker training playlist. You can see on the right-hand side, all the 5 videos are available there. You can watch all of them in succession, 1 through 5, or you can skip the advanced Looker features if you'd like to just get basic training. But once you complete this, you'll be able to create your own reports and data extracts. And if we could go back to the slide, please. I also want to mention that we collected links to all of the individual videos and the knowledge base articles that are mentioned in the videos in this knowledge base article. So this is the Looker Training Series knowledge base article. As you see, there's links to each of the individual videos and also links to the knowledge base articles that we mentioned in those videos. So this just gives you multiple ways of finding the information. You can always just go to our help desk knowledge base and type in Looker and you'll find this article. So that's about it. I just wanted to mention that the complete training is now available. Erin will show you how to find that knowledge base article. So you can click on that, and then also the other articles that we mentioned in the Looker training videos are available there as well. So please feel free to check those out and get trained on creating your own reports and get started using Looker. That's it for me.
Okay, so that was all of the content we have for this time. We do have some time if anybody has questions about anything we just discussed, or any other questions regarding HMIS, anything you would like to see demoed or just talk about. So we'll stay on for a couple minutes and see if any questions come in, but otherwise that was all the content we had for today. If you haven't already, please enter your agency's name in the chat box so we can know who participated in the call. And please keep thinking about the standardized services that we mentioned so we can kind of get them fine-tuned and ready to move forward with. Your feedback will help make sure that we have, you know, the most comprehensive list that we can for any new projects coming into HMIS. We have a question: do all users have access to Looker, or do I have to be an agency admin? I believe we did end up giving it to all of the users. Let me check really quick. Yes, you do have Looker access, Carmen. So feel free to get on those webinars and get trained up. Also, the next meeting is scheduled for September 4th. And we will be sending out the meeting minutes from today's meeting as well as the recording of this webinar. And we will be sharing that with you through email. I'm not seeing any other questions coming into the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar. Thanks for attending, everybody. As always, if anything comes up, you can enter a ticket through the HMIS help desk, and have a great day.